It's difficult, you know, because I've always known that I was different, but I never got the feeling that I was like the whole like different from other boys feeling or whatever, because I'd never really considered myself a boy at all. Felt different, and then when I was like 7 is when I learned that I like wasn't going to grow up to be like my sisters. I thought they were just some magical process and I like be a lady. Well, that apparently doesn't happen that way. At least not yet.
When you hear the word transgender, what do you think that word means?
I'm pretty sure that it's when somebody is like male and they feel like they're like a female trapped in a male body, or like vice versa. I'm pretty sure.
And by the time I was about 17 though, 17 to 18, I know that I had some kind of issue, some kind of like big old secret that if people learned what it was, that they like wouldn't want to be friends with me. And so I just did my best to not learn what that secret was, which sounds weird to hold a secret from yourself, but that's how it worked. And then when I was 19 was when I started feeling like something was like seriously wrong with me, but I didn't really have the right words for it because the only thing I'd heard about like trans people was growing up and like there's like Silence of the Lambs and Buffalo Bill and like bad jokes and like the thought that trans people are all just like creepy dudes in dresses who are gonna like do things to children.
I don't know, bisexual or something like that.
So I guess I was still technically 18. I learned about asexuality, which is when you're not sexually attracted to any gender. And I realized that that's what I was, and got super involved in that community for a while. And then I realized if I was going to confront that about myself, I had to confront other stuff about myself.
The biggest problem is the silencing. I think the tremendous fear to be able to even talk about these issues.
At the time I've been taking this philosophy class, and we've been going through Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. And this sounds really dumb, but it was like I was having kind of this weird like faith crisis and like identity crisis, and I didn't know what to do. But I was like, but hey, Descartes, he figured stuff out. And he figured stuff out by like hiding away and just like going to the very basics and trying to figure out what he knew from there. So I was like, I'll just like do that, and like started trying to dig deep into myself, find out what I knew about myself, what I knew about people around me and whatnot. And that's when I realized like the source of a lot of my like depression, despair, so on and so forth was caused because I didn't feel right in my body, and then I had to dig deeper into that and figure out why I didn't feel right with that. And then suddenly I started remembering about how all growing up I wished I was like my sisters, and was like super envious of like girls at church because they could wear better outfits than me and they were all pretty and I wasn't, things like that. And so then I was like, well, this is a thing, but I didn't really want to accept it at first. So for a little bit, I was like, well, maybe I'm just like gender queer. I'm still like a dude, but like I'm kind of like queer in terms of gender stuff. But that didn't really last for very long.
Honestly, it means a lot different for everyone, you know? I mean, men that identify themselves as women, or, you know, vice versa, or, you know, just basics, things like that.
Because I went to a panel by these trans people, and there was this girl there, and she was really cool, but most of all, she was really like normal. Like she wasn't a murderer or anything. And it sounds weird to like say that, but growing up, the only thing I'd ever heard was like trans people were always these like really old, really ugly, creepy people who like preyed on children. So to see someone who's like around my age, who's like totally normal and was just like working at like Joann's and all that good stuff, like it was really eye-opening to me and really inspiring. Then after that I was like, well, okay, this might be something I could actually do.
I mean, look, identity itself is a difficult thing. Nobody knows who they are and what they want and who they desire. I mean, these things are something that take your whole lifetime to figure out, and they change.
You know, that's kind of the story of how I came out to myself, and then it's just a process of having to try to come out to like my dad and stuff. Or before I even did that, I was preparing to go on a mission because like I was a super straight-laced, you know, Molly Mormon type. Or I guess I was Peter Priested back then, I don't know. Like, what do you even call trans people who used to be Peter Priested? And But I was getting ready to go on a mission, but I felt like going on a mission wouldn't be right for me, not just because of the whole concept of going out and teaching something that I wasn't sure would even be like inclusive of me, but it was going out and teaching something in such a hyper masculinized environment of you're always in a suit and tie, you're always like elder and brother, and you always have to kind of hold this facade that you're like this strong like son of God, like gonna be going out and teaching these people with your priesthood power. And you know, at the moment women don't get the priesthood, and so just the thought that people would have to ask me to like give priesthood blessings and stuff made me like feel super uncomfortable, because it's like, what do I tell them? Do I tell them that I'm secretly a woman and that secretly, with the way the church is currently run, I shouldn't have the priesthood? Or what?
I have a cousin who's transgender. I think it means that they change like their identity from a female to a male, or from a male to a female, and they change the way they act and the way they basically decide to become something else.
To not even have the space to be able to talk about it, to figure these things out, to explore, just to sort of have ears that will listen to you. I think that's the biggest threat, because it really does start in just having somebody say, oh really? Tell me more. What are you going through? What is that like? And that requires openness on both sides.
But before this, I had already prayed when I was about to kill myself and felt that it was okay to be trans. You know, the answer that I got from God was that he would prefer to see a living trans girl than a dead trans girl trying to be a guy.
There's always going to be a time when we're confronted with something that we don't know, we don't understand, and our immediate reaction is going to be defensiveness and fear and maybe even a little bit of prejudice. And it's best just to recognize that and to pause and to just say, okay, tell me what it is I'm missing.
Yeah, so for every bad experience that I've had in Provo, I've had at least 2 or 3 good experiences.
Yeah.